here is my bag fabric. I'm going to go ahead and use this. Again, remember what I told you on your pattern. If you have directional, let's see, I didn't tell you on this one. If you have directional, I want your directional to go north and south, okay? Don't have it go this way, because then everything, when you open up the bag, you're going to see everything sideways. But if you have it go north and south, we can twist it around so that what you see, what the public sees, is the correct orientation. What I've done is I've shape flexed the wrong side of my fashion fabric, and you can see the shape flex there. And then remember to put the nubbly side down. The nubbly sandy side is the glue. And so that goes to the wrong side of your fabric. Okay, so here is your bag. Now what I want to do is here's my fashion front, turn it over, and I'm going to put my bag. And I think I can do a little bit more shape or stitch witchery too. And I have my raw edge here. I don't need to necessarily cut that off. I can go ahead and clear that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my bag where it straddles my zipper, which is right here, okay? And I've got it, let me see if I can, I've got it where it's a little higher than the zipper. Right? A little bit higher, not too much higher, but higher than the zipper. So I'm going to put it here. I'm going to get it centered. And then I think what I'm going to do, because I think I can, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the same process, and I'm going to stitch witchery that down. I'm going to go ahead and stitch witchery that down. Sorry, I had a phone call. And I'm going to go ahead and, this is the 1/2" stitch witchery. I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half a little bit. I don't need quite, you can use the full 1/2. It doesn't matter. Not here. I think it matters on the zipper, because I don't want it to, if you use the full 1/2 on the stitch witchery here, it'll poke out. And then when you try to fuse it, it's going to fuse to your ironing board. You know, it's going to fuse to whatever you got underneath it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center this, clear that white rim, put it here, and let's go ahead and fuse that down. Not real tall. Okay, so now this is fused down. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to what I told you to do in the beginning, what I said. This is why, if it's directional fabric, I wanted that directional fabric to be going north, because when you open it up, that's what you're going to see, is the directional. But what I want to do now is I'm going to sew in the ditch right here. And sew 2.5, but you're going to sew right into the ditch right here. Do you have to sew the sides? No, you don't have to sew the sides, because they're going to be covered up with the strap. So go ahead and let's do that, and let's be right back. Okay, I've gone ahead and sewn. Let me show you what that looks like. See, I've sewn in the ditch, not a particularly fabulous sewing job. And you're saying, God, where's your pull? Pull's underneath here. It doesn't matter, because I can push my pull out of the way. I can push it back into where it needs to be, but for now I can leave it out of the way so there's no bulk involved. That's why you have to finish those edges so you don't accidentally pull your zipper out. I've pulled it now. Take a look, and let me see if I can back this up. I've sewn it here. Okay, I've sewn it up here, but make sure this is sitting down. Make sure that this is sitting down. Let's turn it over to see what it looks like from the back. So you've got this all sitting free and hanging free. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put it into the bottom of the zipper. Because what we did with this one is we put it to the top of the zipper. The bottom of your bag, this will go ahead and attach to the bottom of your zipper. To give you another idea what this looks like. Now what I've done is I've gone ahead, it's inside out, this right side is showing. I'm going to go ahead and pull this piece up here, and I'm going to clear my zipper a little bit, and you can fuse it in place. The nice thing about that is you get it so that you know that this is hanging well. I don't want it to be accidentally off where it's hanging like this, or hanging like that. I need it to be hanging nice, because if it's not hanging straight up and down, it's going to want to twist on you. And so that will be unfortunate. So I want to clear this. Here's the edge of this is the bottom of my zipper. I want to clear that bottom a little bit, putting the raw edge of the right side of your pocket fabric to the raw edge of your zipper. So it'll go like this. And then we're going to do another sew job. You can tell I don't want to do it where you'd sew it like that, because then you wouldn't be able to get your bag open. Open this up, pull this out of the way. You're going to turn it over, and I'll go ahead and stitch Witchery this and fuse this down. You'll turn it over, and when you're done, you're going to have a sew right like that. I've got my small 1/4 inch piece of stitch Witchery right here on the edge of my zipper. This is the wrong side of my zipper. And I'm going to go ahead and fold that pocket up. Okay. And now I'm going to sew it like this. Leave this, make sure that this is alone. And I'm going to sew it like this. So you'll have to turn it over. In fact, you might be smart, just to make sure that you don't misorient this thing. Put some clips here to make sure that this bag doesn't get in your way. Turn it over. So now your bag is hanging up. And go ahead and sew this bottom piece right here. And let's see if this works. I've gone ahead and sewn the bottom piece here. My bag is sitting outside of the sew area. And you'll notice, you say, hey lady, where's your pull? Pull's over here. And because I didn't sew anything, I just sewed the top and the bottom. Now I can move my pull to where I want to move it. All right, let's see if that worked. So I'm going to undo here. I'm going to let this fall. Turn it over. So I have, okay, I've got this. Let's see if this works. Hopefully this works. If not, I have a lot of ripping to do. Open up your bag and let's look at the inside. Well, that looks pretty. Remember when I told you to make sure that you had a bobbin that matched your zipper color? With this technique, it doesn't matter. My bobbin was white because you don't see it. So that's that. The bag is open. That's nice. And this is what, let me move this in just slightly. And this is what you're seeing. So this is actually very clean. I like this idea. I was glad I thought about this. I didn't think about it. My little lizard brain thought about it while I was sleeping. Okay, I like that. Do that on the second side. Okay, I will need 4 straps, 2 for each side. Okay, and we decided that we were going to go 3 inches in. I think that's what we decided. So I'll need 2 in the front and 2 on the other side. I'm going to need to cover these, and let me show you how to cover these. These were cut at 11 inches because I don't need them so tall. But these I want to cut at 13 inches because I do need them tall. Now, how do you cover this strap efficiently with this fabric? Let me explain how you can do it with inch fabric, 1.5 inch strapping. The width of this is 1.5 inches. So one side is 1.5, the other side is a 1.5, so that's 3 inches. Now you're going to need 1/4 inch is your seam allowance, so 1/4 inch here and 1/4 inch here is 3.5 inches. But I need a little bit more room in order to get this strap in. So I'm going to cut my strap of fabric 3 3/4 inch for a 1.5 inch strapping. So you're going to cut this at 3 3/4. Then you're going to pull it, and I'm going to need 13 inches. I want this to be 13 inches, basically the top, the whole width of the bag. And I'm going to cut 4 of these. I'm going to go ahead and do, I'll do 13. I'll probably make 1 long strip, and then I'll show you how to shove it in, okay? Using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. As I need 13 inches from here to here, 13 times 4 is 52 inches. This material is only about 44 inches. So I'm going to piece this together to continue a run here. So how you do that is you bring it up here, right sides together at a T intersection. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew on the diagonal from here to here. Because what will end up happening is when I'm done sewing, I will get that look. A very nice look, a little less bulky. So a good look, and it's on the diagonal. So I'm going to go ahead and piece this together. Then I will cut this piece about 52 inches. I've cut it on the diagonal and I've pieced it, so that will open up very nicely like that. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this excess right here because it's way too much bulk. I like pinking shears. Pinking shears are fun, so I always use my pinking shears. I'm going to go ahead and trim that. So I'll have something like that. Open it up. Come at it with your iron and open up those seam allowance. Okay, cut this at 52 inches. I've gone ahead and sewn with 1/4 of an inch with my right sides together, and I'm going to use this big chubby piece here, and I'm going to stick this in the hole. And I've stuck it in the hole, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the excess fabric that I have, turn it over, go down here, use my little pigtail. I'm going to use my purple pigtail. I think the purple one is slightly larger. And I'm going to put it in here, if I can do that. And I'm going to twirl it through the top. And I'm going to gently pull. Gently, don't struggle, gently until you can see it, which I did. I'm going to unscrew my pigtail. Come on. Okay, my pigtail is unscrewed. I'll continue to pull it out. And voila, you have your strapping. On this piece, because this doesn't move around, you can leave your seam allowance in the center back. Let me open up this, sorry. You can leave that seam allowance in the center back because you will not see it. Because once it lays down, it'll lay down flat. Your seam will be back here, but everything will be dead and you won't be able to see it from the public. When we do it for the strap around the shoulder, then I'm going to make sure that my seam allowance is right at the corner, right up in here. And then that way you really kind of don't see it from either side. If you don't have a tube turner, well, let's say you get a tube turner and it's not this one, and it's going to be, you know, a bit dynamic trying to do 52 inches at one sitting. You might go ahead and cut these into 13-inch swaths and then go ahead and turn 13 inches. When let's say you don't have anything and you're going to have to try to dry fit this one, you can, and let's see, it's not optimal, but you can use the 3 3/4. You can come up, you can use a 1/4 inch here, and you can come down, right? And then you can go ahead and use that fashion. What I would recommend, if you decide to do a dry fit like this and you don't have a tube turner, I hate to say it, but I think you're going to need to go ahead and use your Stitch Witchery and Stitch Witchery all that down. Because the problem is if you use your pin or you use your machine and go ahead and sew that down, you're going to see it from the fashion side. You're going to see it from this side, and that's going to be visible to the public. That will not be as pretty as you would like. So, however you decide to do it, but you may have to Stitch Witchery this down to get it down before you can sew it to the bag. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put my pieces in. It makes it slightly easier. Just go ahead and cut these at 13 inches each, and then this will slide in without the benefit of a big safety pin. When you do your shoulder strap, and each shoulder strap is 33 inches, you're going to have to use a safety pin. But you can get away with it now because 11 inches at this firmness, I can shove it in. I've cut my 4 at 13 inches, And let me show you that this actually will work pretty well, I think. I hope. Kind of curl it a little bit. And if not, big safety pin. Or a small safety pin. Come on. If you have been a little fast and loose on that 1/4 inch seam allowance and you've kind of tightened it up, yeah, you're going to have a safety pin because it's going to have to go in. Maybe I was a little bit fast and loose. But when you get the gist of it, I want you to put this in there. And I'm just going to scrunch it down and pull. Okay, and I've got that safety pin in there. I've put it in, and you can tell I've got a little bit more on the excess, and I've got quite a bit of excess down in the bottom. I want to go, because I had to take that pin out, I want to go ahead and open this up, and I want to grab my strapping. I love these. These are curved hemostats. I think they're curved hemostats or forceps, but I love these things. You can use tweezers, whatever. What I'm doing is I'm reaching down here, and I'm trying to grab my strapping, and I want to pull that now a little bit down. Grab the strapping, not the fabric. I'll go ahead and get that a little bit flush with that bottom piece. Okay. So you can tell this piece is flush. That's nice. That's great. That's going to be on, this is going to be on the bottom edge of my bag. But I've given myself my actual webbing stops here, and I have extra. I need that extra because it's got to roll over my Tri-Glide slide. Okay. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and re-measure just to make sure, because we've lost all of our measurements. And I'm going to use a yellow clover just so you can see it. Remember, we decided, make sure too, now go ahead and make sure that your pull is visible. Then what I also did is I put a pin right here, and I pinned my pocket to the bottom just to make sure my pocket doesn't flip around when I'm trying to go final and sew this thing. I want this thing to sew nicely. Okay, we wanted 3 inches. That's what we decided. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's my 3 inches right there. Then I'm going to take my bag, or my strapping, this piece right here that has the end in it, this goes at the bottom. This goes down here. Put your seam underneath. And it goes to the left of your line. It goes anywhere you want. Just make sure that you've done it the right way on all pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Where's a big one? There's a big one. There's a big one. Okay. And then let me go get my Tri-Glides. Here's my piece here, and then what I'm going to do, you know, I may go ahead and change that. See, that's where that join was. I may go ahead and maneuver my strapping around where the join, instead of it being up here, the join is down here, so it's not so visible. Let me go ahead and maneuver that strapping. Pull that down right to the edge. Yeah. And I'll make this my bottom. There, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now, let's say you're working with some really pretty fabric, but very delicate fabric. You're known for carrying 400 pounds in your handbag. What you can do, and it's optional, but to reinforce this right in here, what I do is I'll put little bitty wedges of Shape Flex on each side, because then when I turn it over my Tri-Glide, that Shape Flex adds a lot of stability to that fabric. And so instead of you just having fabric here, you have fabric that's being reinforced with Shape Flex. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here's just a little bitty swatch of Shape Flex. This is the nubbly piece. That's the smooth. This is the nubbly. That's the glue piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'll put the glue down for this piece. And I'm just going to go ahead and wedge it in there. This doesn't have to be perfect. All I want to do is add a little bit of stability to that fabric that runs over my slide. That's all I want to do. Okay. Now, do the same on the other side. Okay, and I'm going to do that on all the pieces. Yeah, you kind of say, yeah, but you didn't get it all. Don't worry about it. This is all going to be folded down. You're not going to see this. Here's the front. We're going to go ahead and put it through the slide. We're going to run it through, and then we're going to run it down like that. Okay? If you don't want anything to peekaboo too, what you can do is you can make a little X there. Okay? Then I'm going to bring it down. This one can get laid down just like that because all of this will be covered up in sewing. So what I'm going to do, use a little bit, stitch Witchery, put it down, make sure my raw edges look good. I don't care about the raw edges here. This is all going to be taken up in the sew. Okay, good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and replace this where it belongs. Make sure that my pocket is down. We've decided on a 3-inch. Let's say you decided on the 3-inch, but you wanted to play another way for you to do a 3-inch. Just take your ruler like this. Sorry, I got so much stuff on my sewing machine or my sewing area. 1, 2, 3, and you can go ahead and line it up like that. Now, on your master pattern that I told you that I wanted the top. Let's go ahead and attach this on for now. I went ahead and put this on just so I can show it. I wanted the top to be 2 inches from the, again, I wanted my tri-glide to be 2 inches from the top of my bag here. So I wanted that to be 2. Let me see how close I am. Huh, pretty good. That's 2 inches. Okay, so I wanted it 2 inches. I wanted to clear that bag. So I like that. So I can go ahead and put a pin right in here. Okay, yep, that's good. And this has already been fused down. What you're going to do is I'll show you kind of the direction, but what you're gonna do, good. You're gonna start sewing here. You're gonna come up. You're gonna pivot. You're gonna come down. You're gonna go over. And I'm going to draw it for you because then it might make it just a little bit easier for you to see what you're going to do. You're going to create a box. You're going to come up here. You're going to pivot. You're going to come down. Give yourself about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, probably more of 1/8 of an inch. You're going to come down. I tend to try to come down past my zipper. Okay. You're going to come over here. Because you've already sewn this piece. Then you're going to come up this way. You're going to come back up to the top. You're going to have a double reinforcement at the top. You're going to pivot here. You're going to come down here. And then you're going to continue on just like that. Okay, I've come up from the left-hand side. I've done my big boxing. And you can see I've done my boxing, and I'll go ahead and use my iron and go ahead and remove my friction pen. Make sure, you know, this is hard on a home machine. A home machine is going to really give you the hairy eyeball if you try to do this. So you're going to need a very thick needle. You know, this is really solid. I would probably at least a 90-14, maybe 118. You're going to need a very solid denim needle to go through this. This is hard on a home machine, so take your time. You can't be running through this very quickly. Go ahead and do this to all four, both sides, and then we'll start to make the mid panel. Wanted to show you something that I don't think I've ever done this before, but I did it now. I was doing this and I noticed that one of them was taller than the other, and I said, that is just going to have trouble. I don't understand why one is taller. And the reason why is because this one I wrapped around just the bottom ring here, and this one I wrapped around the center ring here. Does it matter? You know, I just don't know if it matters, to tell you the truth. I don't know if there's a big rationale. They're both structurally sound. I think it's just a matter of aesthetics. So I'm going to go, I'm going to go ahead and rip this out, and I'm going to go ahead and rewrap it the correct way, or at least equal to the other side. Okay, I'll finish with one side, and I fix my, my Tri-Glide. You know, I don't know if it matters if you wrap it around the center or wrap it around the end. I think what you just need to do is be commensurate with what you do on each part. And I've done the X marks the spot here. And that's nice. That gives me about a 9-inch opening, which is, I think, pretty 8-ish. I don't want to lie to you, but it gives me, because we came in 3 inches, I'm sorry, it gives me a 7 3/4 opening. So nice. Okay, I can do that. If you take a look from the other side, you'll see, remember, I never had you finish the sides of your bag, because your sides of your bag are finished when you put in your strapping. So the sides are already finished. The bottom is pretty, and since you've shape flexed it, it's a really strong bag. Do the same to the other side, but be proud of yourself. There's not a lot of people who really know how to do a nice welt pocket, and I think that's pretty nice. That's not a terrible looking welt pocket, so be proud of yourself. You've worked really hard. This is actually one of the more challenging pieces to making the bag. Everything else is pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and review some of the numbers while we start doing the middle, the big divider in the center. We said that we wanted 17.5 to where we're going to join up the zipper. So we're going to come up here to 17.5. That's fine. And we'll make a mark on that middle divider. Then we decided that we wanted to start the side pocket at about 8.5. So from here to here is about 8.5. So I'll go ahead and write that. Right there. I'm going to go ahead now. This is the middle panel that joins the front and the back of the bag. So what we want to do is we want to find center for sure. And I'd like to tell you some of your instructions that you'll read. They'll say, okay, make your center panel at X amount of inches and make your zipper panel at X amount of inches. Put it together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance and you're perfect. You're not perfect. It's not going to work. I can almost guarantee you. Why? Because look at this. Even though I've quilted it, even though it's nicely quilted, what does she do? She stretches, right? And so what I'm trying to do is we will fussy this in, because I know that this will take just a little bit of maneuvering to get this perfect. So when they tell you to make it, they're in the vicinity of correct, but you're going to have problems and you may have to ease it in, and I don't want to ease it in. What I want to do with this center panel, this is the bottom of the bag, and it wraps around the side of the bag. I want to find center. So I'm going to go ahead, put it together. And I'll put together, and remember, I gave you enough room. I gave you some flex room in here to play with. And this is why you can make any size bag you want, because every time you're going to do kind of a fussy work. I'm going to go ahead and find center. So this is center, and I'm going to make just a little snip mark. And I mean just a little bitty snip mark here. And then I'm going to make just a little snip mark here. And even though that's really tiny, if you take a look, that is not so tiny. So that's great. So now what I'm going to do, just so it's visual, a little bit more visual to me, I'm going to go ahead and draw on here so I kind of know where center is. Turn it over because then you can write on it. This is my center. Okay. Now, the base of my pocket on the outside is 8.5 inches. So come out 8.5 inches from center. That's 8.5 there, over here. See my finger right there? So that's the pocket, and you can write pocket. And 8.5 over here. And then we wanted to do the zipper join at 17.5. Okay, so I'm going to, from the center, from here, this is my midline, okay, from here, I want to do 17.5. Probably smarter to go here. And here's 17, where's 17? Here's 17, so come out 17.5 here. Make it straight here. I want this final line to be a very nice straight line. Let me put you down just a little bit. Hopefully I don't, okay. Here's 17.5 here. Where's 17.5? There we go. There's 17.5 here. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to make my mark. So that's my zipper join. Zip join. In the vicinity of that. I mean, this is not, rocket physics. This is, but it's close. I mean, you want it to be reasonably good. So let's do another 17.5. Here's 17.5. You can't see it, but I can. And that's my, okay. So we were right on. I shouldn't have much in the way of excess to play with, but I will need, I will have to have some game here because I have stretch. And it's going to stretch on me. As nice as you've tried to do it, you're going to have issues. Okay, so that is my middle panel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start building my side pocket. Okay, here are my two outside pieces. This is what the public is going to see. It is 7 inches tall because that's the finished size that I'm looking for. And I'm going to make it wider than it needs to be. This is probably, I don't know, 6.5 inches wide. It's just because what I had on hand. Make sure it's directional. Make sure that you've got your direction right. I can always cut this down to 5 inches, and I will. It's just I can't grow it anymore. So I've made 2 pieces, and I've shape flexed the back of each of these pieces. So these are 7 inches. 7 inches by, I don't know, 6.5, something like that. I'll cut it down. This is the lining. And I'll cut this in half, but this is 8 3/4 inches. So this is 8 3/4 inches tall. And again, a little bit wider than 5 inches. I need a little bit of give space. And you can kind of tell on the back. See how I've kind of Frankensteined my shape flex together? You can do that if you've got the right shape flex. If you've got shape flex that has that sandy, nubbly texture, you bought it at Joann's, then it's correct shape flex. If your shape flex is lighter and it has a clear finish where the glue is, it will probably not adhere nearly as well as you would like, and you may not be able to get away with Frankensteining it because it just won't bloody stick. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those, and I'm going to join those together. Let's talk about one thing before I join these together. On the side of my bag, I just left these as plain fabric. It doesn't really distract from my bag. I didn't quilt this, and I didn't foam it. Another layer of foam was a bit more than what I wanted. It was a bit more than I thought was needed, and it just wasn't worth it to me. So I did not foam it, and I did not quilt it. Now, let's say you kind of want the illusion of quilting, but you don't need the foam. What I would go ahead and do, as it's sitting here on its single piece and it's been shape flexed, I would go ahead, if you want to have the illusion of quilting, go ahead and do your quilting, do all of your quilting here just on this single piece, because then when you put it together, you'll have it, it will look quilted, but it won't have the bulk of the foam, and then I can finish it off nicely at the top. So that's one design option, but I find that yeah, it looks good, it looks fine if I just leave it plain. So we'll go ahead and leave it plain for this one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put my lining together, and my lining I wasn't able to cut as wide because I was limited, I was trying to economize on fabric. So I'm going to put my lining together on both pieces, and I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance right down in there. I've sewn this together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm right sides together, obviously, and then you go ahead and you can go ahead and iron this. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and pull it to the I'm going to go ahead and pull it to the back side, right? And I'm going to give myself about a 3/4 inch overhang. I think that looks good. Let me find my 3/4 inch. I think that looks pretty nice. So that's a 3/4 right there. Remember, I've mismatched this. It will eventually line up to be 5 inches without a problem, but I've mismatched that. So that looks good. Then what I'm going to do, again, I told you I used a lot of Stitch Witchery. I'm going to go ahead and just fuse that top down. You can go ahead and top stitch. Well, my top stitch isn't always that good looking, right? And if you're wrong on your top stitch, it looks pretty crudely. So you could go ahead and stitch in the ditch right here. If you had a sewing machine that had some pretty decorative stitches, you could do that. So that comes out to be about right. Now what I'm going to do is I want this to finish at 7 inches. It's finishing now at, let's see, right at about 8 inches. There's my 8 inch right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crease this piece right here, and I'm going to bring it up about a 1/2 inch or so. Get out of my way. Get out. That's so I can see the crease that I've done. So what size is that? It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Dead on 7 inches. Okay, good. So I'm going to do the same to the other side. Here is my middle panel. This was my halfway mark. This is the center of my middle panel. This is where the one that I wanted the bottom of my pocket to go. So what I'll do, just so that I can see what I want to do, I'm going to go ahead and make some marks here. Okay, hopefully you can see that a little bit. Now, I want my pocket opening to be this way. If you do it wrong, you will very quickly realize you've done it wrong. So what I'm going to do, grab your pins here. That's why I made the crease down at the bottom. Here's the top of my bag. Here's the crease at the bottom. Go ahead and put that crease. This is my line where I wanted it gone here. Go ahead and center it up where I have excess up here, I have excess down here. I can cut that off, and I will. And I've lined it up here. You can go ahead and open that up. You can go ahead and pin it. Do it on both sides, on both of your lines. You have one line here, you have one line down the street here. And I want you to sew on, and I'll do this in yellow so you can see where your crease line is. I want you to sew on that crease line, okay?